Hi, my name is Byron Bridges. This is my name sign. Welcome to the ASL review, structure and language. In this video, the point of this video is to see the people who really wanted to understand what ASL structure was. And it'll really help you see some things that are still consistent and some things that have changed in the language, and really analyze ASL. You go into ASL structure, you'll see some of the history up until now, and some from in the past. And Nathan Marbury will go a little more in depth with that. The first time you see deaf people kind of written down was by Ebers Parias. It's in Egypt, 10th century BC. Later, Greek philosopher Plato. Just a few different from like 933 to 722 BC. There was different mentions in the Old and New Testament of the deaf people. Now in the Old Testament, New Testament, from 54 to 80 AD, that's the New Testament. In St. Augustine, he wrote that the use of sign language in ASL was best for teaching children. In 430 AD, a religious follower, if you can't hear God, then you can't ever go to heaven. So people were really trying to figure out ways to teach the deaf the belief of God. And in the 7th century AD, the oral method and finger spelling was what was used from then on. So in the 18th century, a religious follower used different ways to teach the oral method, finger spelling, and writing. That man's name was Abbé de l'Épée. He used sign language and he taught it to deaf children. And then from then on, at the same time, the Milan Congress was happening in Italy. It was in 1880. A lot of people gathered, mostly from France and Italy, and they were strong supporters of lip reading and writing for the deaf, and really against ASL language. There were two delegates from America who were strongly supportive of the ASL language. And they knew that lip reading had a lot of strong supporters, and the influence was in Europe, but they were stubborn, they were strong, and they really wanted ASL to win. In the same time, in Asia, you see that lip reading is the way to go. And Alexander Graham Bell was the person who set that up. Or this is his sign name. His conflict, or his belief, kind of spread in America. And he was a strong and powerful man in the deaf community. He had a deaf wife. And then there was a deaf man, George Vedix. He was a president for the NAD twice. George Vedix, he made a movie that was going to save ASL because there was a lot of oppression of the language in Europe at that time. So he decided to get a a lot of money together, and they will make this little short movie for the deaf people in America to preserve ASL language. Then that was around 1911 or 1933, in between those times. Up until then, there was no ASL. And then around 1960s, a man by the name of William Stokey, he realized that deaf workers were using a language, so he researched it, and he saw that there was an ASL structure the same as in the structure of a spoken language. So he went a little more in depth later. Stokey had successfully, so up until then, he worked and worked, and then finally it was confirmed that ASL was a language. Thank you, Nathan. That's a history of ASL is really interesting. A lot of different people, a lot of names, many people having their opinions of what this language should be, or if it wasn't a language at all. And then in the 60s, Stokey kind of set up that this video is really going to understand the history up until now, and really get into. So now I'm going to go and ask some questions that a lot of people tend to ask about ASL. Now I'm going to touch on a few just to make some things a little clearer about the structure of ASL. So Navy will again go a little more into depth with that.